this is my my pro tip tweet, uh, and I'm going to see if I can get that on there. Yeah, so it's hard to read, but I'll read it for you. Pro tip: you can only tell lies in the same manner for so long before, number one, enough people identify the patterns of your pathology. Number two, such information becomes widespread. And number three, your ill-conceived persuasion / manipulation game is rendered effectively over. Change your stripes, Tiger. So, I mean, okay, we're calling out liars. We lie all the time. Human beings, we lie all the time. Constantly. Because it holds things together. You know, we call the little ones little white lies. But in reality, you know, it's social lubricant, and it also saves people's feelings and allows you to sort of, I guess, balance out your own emotional, you know, state where you might be a little bit irrational and you might need to take a step back. So lying can be, it's part of human nature to lie. It's part of what makes things work. As awful as that might be, and I'm not recommending that you lie in your personal life, but when you're, especially if you're dealing with politics and you're dealing with situations where, you know, lying is commonplace and it's part of the game per se. If it's part of the game, even then in a post-truth environment where, you know, the facts don't matter as much, persuasion might matter more, and there's other factors that matter because people don't think rationally, that they don't think rationally. We don't think rationally. We think it's an ideal, it's something we reach for to become more rational. But we're irrational, emotional beings, and we make decisions based on emotion largely, in addition to logic and, of course, ethical decisions as well, moral decisions, as the great philosophers have tried to guide us towards a system that is equitable to all human beings. Morality. I think it's still to this day, it has to be one of the most one of man's great, you know, like our Moby Dick, you know, to make a literary reference. Our Moby Dick, our great whale, you know, our holy grail is to find universal truth and universal morality. At least if you're into the whole, you know, philosophy thing. So, I digress, I'm rambling now. You can only tell lies in the same manner for so long before people just figure it out. They identify the patterns of your pathology. They start to see, you know, what your strategy is, because, you know, it's the boy who cried wolf. First you know, you cry wolf once, you cry wolf twice, and then at a certain point people start to realize, okay, this person isn't very credible. So, as a pro tip, you know, I say change your stripes, Tiger. Change your stripes. Now the problem with that is that a lot of the people that lie to get ahead in life, across the board, lying as a coping mechanism, lying as a way to manipulate people and to persuade people, just blatant lies with no truth. That, it's so common. It's so common, but what happens is people just start to find you divorced from reality and not very, you're predictably not very credible. And again, it's all very obvious, but you can't really change your stripes because it becomes, if your world becomes lies, if If you're creating an entire narrative with all of your friends and family and everybody else at your work and everybody else in your life, and you're just creating this false world, you have to, and you've internalized that world. You've internalized it. Other people don't know what you see in your, movie, your perspective on the world, your purview, your worldview. They don't see it. So you're telling yourself all these lies. You're telling them lies, and ultimately, you become divorced from reality. You're looking inward all the time, and confirmation bias takes over because you have to keep the narrative going, and you have to, even to yourself, you start to convince yourself of your own lies, and this is what pathological lying is. And ultimately, people catch on. And so, number two, such information becomes widespread. Yeah, people are going to talk. And that's why it's so important that we have freedom of speech and people can spread information about what's right and what's wrong and everything in between. If somebody is, if somebody is lying and they're trying to gain power through this mechanism, it's just, you got to change your stripes. I hate to say that. I hate to give help to liars. But if you're going to lie, you got to change your stripes. But there's an irony there, and I'll get to that in just a moment. Because number three, it's game over. I mean, it's game over. Persuasion and manipulation are two sides of the same coin. Unless you're thinking in a very postmodern sense, you might go, oh, words don't matter. It's word thinking. But it's ill-conceived. It's my judgment call. If you don't change your stripes. And your persuasion/manipulation game is rendered effectively over by, the inability to adapt. It's difficult. If you're creating a world from scratch, if you're just gaslighting everybody, then, I'm going to use the term correctly. If you're creating a false reality for other people in your life, and it's more about personal interaction. Like if you disagree with somebody on the internet, it's not gaslighting. If somebody is saying something that you don't think is true, it's not gaslighting. Okay? If they have things to back it up, it's not gaslighting. Even if that stuff is fake news, gaslighting requires, I would say, intent. And you can't tell intent because you can't read minds. Mind reading is impossible. So, it is gaslighting in a personal sense because if your entire, at a certain level, if you're in a relationship or you have a friendship and like all the time your friend is trying to convince you that what you believe to be true is actually false, or that what your intuition is telling you and what all the additional information that you can't really parse out easily from your interaction with them. All these sort of cues that are sort of subconscious that you see in the situation, if they're kind of going against all those, eventually you start to catch on, and that's when not everybody, but some people would take action. They would investigate their spouse, they would investigate their friends and family, and if they thought something was going on that was illegitimate or immoral, they could stop it. But I hate to say it, but the more you look inward, the harder it is to change. The more you restrict external factors in your life and in your philosophy, the more it becomes difficult to change because you're so convinced. You've taken a side, you've taken a position, and you're kind of fortifying it and changing your stripes. So that's the irony in it. That's the irony. They can't change their stripes. A pathological liar can't change their stripes, or it's exceedingly difficult. It would be quite impressive.